and they never really had any sort of guidelines. They never really had any clear vision of where I wanted to go with the project. So it really helped me just get away from the design. With this first one, it had somewhat of a color scheme. There was a purple, green, yellow. I thought it was too busy, so I tried to block it out. You can see some of it in the white. However, in this third panel, it's the same painting throughout the entire slide. This third panel, the color scheme is thrown out the window. So you can see I never had any real vision. Fourth panel, I tried to block out some of the spaces again. But in the fifth panel, both the previous color schemes were thrown out the window. The complete composition was thrown out the window. Sixth one, color scheme out the window again, blocking out just a little bit more. But in the final composition, I turned the panel completely from the horizontal aspect to the vertical aspect, threw out the color scheme again, and I outlined some things which have never been done before in my paintings. And this was the final composition. So as you see, it really never had a clear sight of where the project was going to go. I never said, I want this painting to look like this. It was just sort of a process, and that's how most of my paintings go. Next slide. However, I feel as though interaction with the audience whenever I do a painting is really important to me. That previous painting, I didn't really have interaction with people. It was just a very meditative process I did after the monkey project that was completely disliked. But the semester thereafter, next slide, I began to do a lot of paintings. I was doing this class with one of my professors, and I did a series of paintings with her, even though when I began the semester and the semester previous, I thought I was going to do an installation because, like I said, I had all these high theories and I wanted to make an installation. I wanted people to connect with this project. But one of the people, I believe it was down in this corner, I'm not really sure because we kept turning this canvas and people would be working on it, we'd turn it, and then people would come in and paint it almost immediately after one another, and then people would be crisscrossing arms. But I believe it was down in this corner. Someone had painted out this little space with white. And when I looked at this canvas on the fourth and fifth day, I began painting quite early in the fifth day. When I started painting on the fifth day, I realized that there wasn't a color scheme, but there also wasn't that much white. And I thought when that person had blocked it out, it not only tied back to the initial painting where it was just a blank canvas, but I also felt as though it could sort of unify this painting. And so what I decided to do was just take these white elements and sort of reach it all around the canvas, sort of connecting all these different thoughts and ideas that people had created before. And there's also sort of connection with the person that had painted the white space to begin with. Next slide. It's kind of funny because I began my degree here at A&M in architecture. I knew after the first year, my architecture professors just told me, Barrett, you're not structural, you're not functional, you're an artist. You're not going to do well in architecture. And I knew that. So it's sort of funny because I'm really harping on interaction. And it's architecture that really got me thinking about interaction. I thought, these architects, how jealous I am of them because here they are, they design these massive buildings. We're all surrounded by architecture all the time. So I thought, how much of a better interaction can you have other than architecture? And so architecture began the process of interaction with me. Next slide. I really appreciate my paintings, and I've done a lot of them. It's one of my great hobbies, but I believe that it is a rather archaic medium. I believe that whenever you go to museums, you are embedded with this idea that you must hold your hands behind your back, you must look at it in great solemnity, and you must not speak to anybody. You must walk around these white walls. And it's already embedded in you how you need to interact with these paintings, and that's just not how I want my future works to be. I decided that, I love painting, but I can't get my voice heard through it. I believe that artists might be able to see what I'm doing with my painting, but for the general public, they're not going to understand. They're not really going to appreciate it because we've all had it happen to us. We already have this idea of how to view a painting. Next slide. And so, as part of the lecture title, I spit on my recent paintings. It's sort of a double meaning. In the first regard, I spit on my recent paintings in sort of a figurative sense because I feel as though I don't want to present that to the public. I don't just want that to be what I am as an artist. It's also sort of practical and joking figure, but it's quite true. I actually have spit on my paintings. I've mentioned to a few people so far. These two paintings right here are quite recent. And it happened, I believe, on this painting first. I've done a number of other paintings before the second one. But this first one, I found it as a practical matter to just sort of spit on it because I was sort of too lazy to go find a cup of water, and I felt as though it was really necessary. It was just sort of practical. And so I keep doing it because I find it's really useful, actually. It's a much better technique than using water or turpentine. So I spit on my recent paintings. Next slide. However, I don't completely abandon painting. Even on the side, I still paint. But my current pursuit is a sort of four-dimensional painting. Over the past year, I have tried to translate two-dimensional paintings in a three-dimensional space. I've done a number of projects dealing with this, and so we have the three-dimensional space, and then we also have the fourth dimension, which is time. My degree, which is visualization, deals a lot with time-based media, whether it be animation or computer programs, which sort of do this animation for you. And so over the past year, I've done these different projects. The first one, which I'll be showing you, is Bachelorette. It's called Bachelorette because when I began this project, I was listening to a song by Bjork, which is called Bachelorette, and I was really inspired by the song, so I just sort of gave it the title for no other reason. So what you see here is a sort of very crude and first impression of three-dimensional painting. What I did was I just had all of these paint strokes sort of fly by you, showing you the process of the artist whenever they paint in layers. It's sort of a Photoshop file where I just had the paint strokes fly by you. And they land on this imaginary canvas. And so I said, this can't be it. It has to go further. And so I tried to figure out how I could take it further. I didn't really feel like a three-dimensional space. And so I did this. How far 8? It doesn't really have a reason for why it's called that. It was just sort of one of those terms that came to my mind. And I just left it as a title. So you can see here, is that you have the paint strokes again. But as you just saw, when you move through the space and then the camera turns, and you see that all these paint strokes are actually in this three-dimensional space. The only problem with that project was that it was still two-dimensional to me. Whenever you turned the paint strokes, they sort of disappear from the view. They didn't really have a three-dimensional feel to me. So that semester, I didn't actually continue with the four-dimensional pursuit of painting. So I sort of threw away because we had to come to some sort of conclusion about an animation that we had to create for that semester, and I didn't have music for it. I needed to create music, and so when I did create the music, I finally came to another conclusion about the project, and it completely flipped from what it was, and I will be showing that later. But in regards to the four-dimensional painting, I let it sit for a while, a few months to be exact. And actually, a few months ago, while I was over in Germany, I decided to sort of resurrect it because I had a really tough time with some of the professors, and I thought, well, I've got to do something that I really want to do to make them sort of appreciate my work again. So I felt as though coming at this pursuit that I had tried to discover before, I could further resurrect it. So what you see here is another project which will be